Well, you're raising the dead or shooting for the stars. Well, you can't go wrong with a Pottymouth guitar.
Welcome back to Pottymouth Guitars. You're looking at Earl Pottymouth Arbuckle. And boy, oh boy, this is a revolutionary day. We've got a whole lot of things that we're going to introduce. We're going to get started or continued on with a guitar build as well. But clearly, we're looking at a very different environment than before. Right now, I'm leaning up against this it's a toilet seat, and no mystery there. We've got a pun going on. This is Pottymouth Guitars. There's a potty pun. So you're just going to have to get used to that sort of thing happening on the regular. So this is the platform upon which I am going to rest guitars that I am building and or repairing or refinishing or doing whatever with. And right here we've got a vise. The vise will hold the neck of the guitar. We'll go ahead and whoop, there we go, a top view of the vise. So the neck will go in here, body will go here, and you'll see there's a board down here with a slot cut in it. This slot that I'm running my hands in right here. That's the channel where I can loosen this guitar platform. And if I'm working on a ukulele, for example, or a violin or something like that, and, you know, guitar, bass, or whatever else, I can take it back to this position. Normally it's going to be right here. And I'm actually thinking, now that I've got it built, it's looking like this platform is just a little high. Now I could either put 2 more blocks of wood on here and raise that up, and that wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. But actually, to make it more flexible, I can use this. This actually works with a nice thin body guitar. But I think actually if it's 2 inches lower, so I'm going to go ahead and get myself a piece of pipe like I used for this, a little bit shorter length of that pipe, and lower this platform so that the body platform is a little more level with the vise. But it works great as is. I've already tested it out just a little bit, but I really wanted to make sure and give you the inaugural visit. So I'll give you a quick rundown. Basically, I saw on a guitar building website, they had some materials and tools, and they've got, you know, all sorts of accessories. And they've got a workbench that they sell you. And now I rent here. I'm not an owner of a house. I'm old enough that I should be, but I don't own the house that I live in. So in order to use this particular workbench, workstation thing, I needed to be able to drill 4 big old holes in the floor. Now, I can't do that here, and it's not real practical for me to get a big old heavy platform to bolt that thing to and move that around. Plus, the whole workstation all told, with all the accessories and everything, is about $600 probably with taxes. And this workstation does all of the things that one does, but I spent about $170 in materials, and would have spent more if I hadn't dug this out of the trash can. And a lot of this wood was wood I had left over. So there's some 2x4s. All the 2x4s in here are salvaged from a past closet thing that I had built. I was living in an apartment that didn't have a closet, so I built one. And the chipboard is from the same thing. So I went ahead and used that. I bought the length of 6x1 poplar that I used for this, and the little platform here. And there's a little red oak, 4x1 red oak that I used for this little piece. And a vise. I also got the vise jaw pads, because you don't want to be putting a guitar neck into the steel jaws of a vise and clamping it down. That'll mar your neck up real quick. But I did a little bit of extra. We'll see how it works out. I'm hoping it survives, but and the leather is just starting to get soft. But I glued a length of 4-inch wide leather to these two, and you can see right in there's those 3 metallic discs on each one of those pads is a magnet. So it's designed, and it's the same brand. It's a Yost. This is a Yost vise, and these are Yost Vice pads, or I can't remember what they called it in the marketing, but Vice Yost pads. And they might have worked okay by themselves, but there's something in the way that these pads don't seat really super firmly up against the jaws. Probably if you're putting something square in there, but a guitar neck is not a square thing. So if the center of gravity was further down on the pad when you're gripping it in the vise, these pads tended to sort of shift that way. So I could just imagine the neck basically slipping through these and then bashing onto this very rough screw. And I decided that I wanted to make sure that there was something to hold onto that neck. And actually, this turns into a nice guitar cradle if I don't want to really vise it down, grip the neck down super tight. If I want to be able to take it in and out and in and out, this also works for that. So it's a nice little buffer. Make this very, very solid piece of metal something that I can safely use with precious woods and delicate finishes. So I thought I was pretty clever about that leather trick, and I had that leather sitting around. I was going to make myself a guitar strap. Still could with what I have left of the leather, but I found these other guitar straps that I just love that have pick pockets in them, and it's going to be hard for me to want to use another strap when I've got one that has super handy pick pockets, little pick pockets right there. Because I drop picks. I just do that when I'm on stage. But anyway, like I said, I got a Yost Vice pads. The leather was from Tandy Leather. You can order that online, or if you're lucky enough to have a Tandy store in your town. We had one up until the COVID, but that one's closed down since. And oh yeah, and then the base of this is actually a Stanley brand tool cabinet. And a friend of mine had that sitting out in her yard, and was putting whatever in there. And they bought themselves a house, so they're moving out of the house they're living in, and needed to get rid of stuff. So they're giving this thing away. Melissa Seeley, thanks you so much, Melissa. The base of this thing is what I got from you, and I'm super grateful. And yeah, it's just this plastic chest, and it had 4 holes in it that were obviously placed there for people to figure out something to attach to it. So I used those 4 holes to secure 2 2x4s onto the top of it, and I put a 2x4 in between them to serve as an extra base, and then built a little box right here to enclose this little platform and the legs. So there's very little to attach to the top, so I kind of had to attach the pieces of wood to each other. So all in all, actually, if I needed to, I could just remove 4 screws and then take this and screw it onto the top of another table somewhere else. So this is also very portable, and yeah, it could be transferable to another top space. And so that was sort of accidentally versatile. I didn't plan on making it super adaptable or transferable, but it just happened to be that way. And then I saw on that website the one with the $600 workstation thing, and I saw how they made this portion, the board portion with the slot. And I'm gonna mess with this camera again. You're not gonna be really able to see, but I'm gonna point right here, and then right under the lip of the I guess you can see that a little clearer. See that shape, that kind of squared shape? That's actually a routed out space in the wood. So it just kind of creates a little tray, and I've got 6 other little trays kind of routed into the surface of this wood, just so there's some place I can put screws as I'm working on a guitar. I take a screw out I don't want to lose. There's full of little tiny screws and springs and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's just a way to keep track of and be sure not to lose parts as you're building a guitar. And right now this one has 4 pickguard screws and 2 Telecaster bridge screws, because we're in the middle of working on the Pottycaster for Stacey Shea Williams. So we've already talked about that a little bit, and got the guitar right here. Wham-a-llama. So we've got it stripped back to just the guitar and the neck, and I've just got the neck plate secured by 2 screws just so I could use the guitar on this platform and secure the neck, as we are going to do right now. There we go. All right. Yeah. See how a couple inches is going to do, because otherwise we're going to have this going on every time I'm working on a guitar. That's not going to be working quite so correctly, but it's all good. And today, oops, actually, I want to flip it around. I want to be working on the back anyway, and that works better. Okay. So, the last time we met, I put some sealer on the front of this guitar, and the sealer, basically, it's to provide a buffer between. Well, I'll go ahead and I have to get the guitar out to explain all this. I put a sealer on this coat, on this top, and that sealer is basically to make sure that when I put the clear coat on here, that the clear coat doesn't dissolve these colors and leach them into the clear coat and basically turn it into a bleed nightmare. So sometimes the colors will bleed into a clear coat, and that's one of the reasons why you put a buffer between the coats. Another problem that we're running into with this one is that this wood filler, the silver metallic color in this guitar face that's filling into in the laser etching, that is a wax-based wood filler. So if I tried, for example, if I did this whole guitar in that wood filler, and it was a silver guitar, for example, and then I tried to put a clear coat on it that's water-based, well, that water-based would bead up. It would tend to bead up, and basically you'd have a hard time getting this to cover. And you probably end up with a big, huge mess. So, we got color bleed. There's substance incompatibilities, things that won't bond to each other, such as water and wax. So you find things that will bind to the wax, and there's this resin-based sealer that will adhere to that, and it also adheres to the dye on the wood, of course, and the wood. And so we had to use that as a buffer. Another reason to use sealer, and what we learned with the purple guitar, the Potty Blaster that we're working on, we'll get back to that one soon, is that if you don't use a sealer, sometimes with a clear coat, the air that's in the wood of the body, while the clear coat is drying, that air in the wood will decide to release and bubble through the clear coat, and you'll end up with these bubbles in your clear coat. So there's lots of good reasons to make sure that you are doing a correct buffer in between your finish, your color, your dye, your stain, your paint, and whatever clear coat you're putting to seal it, so that so that paint or dye or whatever doesn't scratch off or whatever. So we put that clear coat on here very carefully, and sure enough, because I am learning this along with you, and thank goodness I didn't do it the other way around, because it would have been a disaster, or more of a recovery burden if I had finished the back first and hadn't taken precautions that I should have for the back of this when I did the front. So anyway, what happened, and unfortunately I didn't record my recovery of this, and I will do so in the future now that I have this all set up and everything. I had a couple weeks in there where it was a mess in here, and I didn't really want to try to record anything and be in limbo. But anyway, I'm back at the bench. So that finish had run off of the front, down the sides a bit, of course, and I covered the sides with the sealer. It came across that and then beat it up on the back. So I had these, the sealer, and the sealer did leach a little bit of that pink from the dye here. So those little pools of color that accumulated back here with the sealer discolored this, and I had to redo it. So I didn't have to redo it fully. I went ahead and just sanded off the spots where there was the sealer. There was a bunch here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And I think there was a little bit up here too, but not very much. Most of it was in here. And so I sanded it off, some of it down to the wood, and then just re-dyed. And of course, there's just always a butterfly effect of some sort. And when you make a mistake and you got to backtrack, sometimes you have to go through all the steps again. And sure enough, dyeing this top ended up bleeding over onto this faux binding with the glitter. So today we're going to be making up for my mistake, the last one. And let's see if you can see this. Probably can. Let's see if I can get it close enough. Where there's, from the back, so right along the edge, this light pink glitter paint, you're going to see kind of this hot pink, bright pink dye that bled onto that surface and soaked in. So I want this guitar to be really, really beautiful. I think Stacy Shea deserves to get a great guitar for the money that she's spending. And certainly I want my first Pottymouth custom guitar to be a real something special. So let's get started doing some restoring of the that finish. Okay, we've got the glitter lights, we've got candy pink, that's the color. Alright, we're not going to use that brush. Yeah. Get ourselves a brush. Oh yeah, and I also just got a set of shelves sitting right next to here. So every time I want to do some whenever I want to do some guitar building, my tools are right next to me. I've got my screwdrivers and wrenches, I've got my guitar paints, I've got my soldering stuff, I've got my power tools, and this is my art supplies, so I've got brushes in here. So that's gonna be probably a pretty decent brush, maybe something with a little more. Let's go ahead and do this number 2 liner. Looks like a pretty decent Yeah, this is a 0, a little bit too small. Yeah, that should carry enough paint, but not be too broad, because I don't want to bleed onto the top, and I don't want to mess up the raspberry. And this paint is actually, I found this paint at the Tandy Leather Shop. So I was looking for glitter paint. I found it online is where I found it, but I also bought some at the Tandy Leather store because they have it there. But anyway, oh boy, I might have to get another bottle of this. This might be dried out. It is pretty thick. I've got a toothpick here. Let's see if this is congealed beyond. No, it's thick, but that's fine. This just means it's going to take less time to dry. But anyway, so I was looking for glitter paint online, and lo and behold, saw online that there was a company in Angeles that had these really fine glitter paints. They're not cheap, but I was super excited. They had this good array of colors because I favor the pink, and there was candy pink and raspberry pink. So they definitely were had targeted me as an audience member. And so I started building this guitar. I wanted something to be sort of a buffer in between the back and the front. Something that was going to be, this is a pretty flashy guitar. I wanted something equally flashy to round it out. So, what I'm doing right now, just as an explanation for what the heck I'm doing, I'm digging the paint that is in the lid here that has become a little too thick, but it's still malleable. So I'm going to drag it out of here with this silicone blender tool, and mix it in with the thinner paint below. So basically what I'm going to get is a very densely glitter laden acrylic medium, and that means it's just going to take a very thin coat of this particular batch to cover what I need to cover. And yeah, if I need to open another bottle, well, the colors will match fine. It's not compromising anything, and I think this texture looks good. So yeah, it's not clumpy. So back to the Angelus. So I got, the raspberry, and I got the candy pink, and I just got enough of it to sort of get what I wanted to do done, and which is, of course, an underestimate, and ended up wanting to get more of the raspberry, couldn't get it, etc., etc. It was the beginning of the pandemic. Mail was suddenly weird, and ordering people's, the most random things were suddenly unavailable. Webcams, of course, that was no surprise, but yeah, random weird pandemic specific or pandemic exacerbated shortages. And anyhow, as I was realizing that I might not be able to find more of this, I ended up finding some other alternatives that are also glitter paint. But like this one, the thing that's unique about this is that I'm finding right now that I'm going to need to take this neck off. So I was yeah, that ought to do. We're not going to need to have the body clamped in to do this. We're certainly not doing any woodwork, and the neck plate happens to be in the way. So take this off. And yeah, I was looking, and it's looking like I may, if I left it on, I may have ended up with some like paint accumulating up against the neck plate, and if the neck plate got took off, it would have, or taken off, took off. We'd end up with a big ridge of glitter paint that would just break off and look a mess. And if there was something unattractive underneath it, say for example some sloppy neon dye, we'd just be perpetuating the problem that I am in the process of solving. So, re-pinking and de-pinking at the same time. It's mini pinks, but we have to keep them separate. And this is part of the, if anyone's ever wondered why a custom guitar costs a lot, it's things like this. When you hand paint a guitar, especially if you don't know what you're doing, it takes an extra time. But even when you're a professional luthier, these processes, especially these like custom finish processes, are labor intensive, and the materials are often expensive. And yeah, one of the reasons why I switched away from this particular paint is because, god dang it, I gotta unlink my phone from that thing. Yeah, that was a phone call. I don't know who. Much of this the gap in my output here was also exacerbated partially because of my ignorance and inability to master technology. I'm old dude through and through. Yeah, things like I don't know why this computer tells me that my phone is ringing, but my other one doesn't. You know, they're both Apples. I don't know. It's weird. But it's very annoying. When that thing happens. All right. It's funny, it's this brightness actually makes it hard to see in some ways. I got a little fly friend. Hey, you. Good thing I'm not in a vice presidential debate. Huh? Yeah, it'd be something else if I were telling horrible lies. And you're just standing there like you and I are friends. Why are you sitting there? Most of the time when I've got a fly, the thing is flying around like crazy, driving me crazy. Wow, this is weird. He seems to understand that I am not able to threaten him with this thing, because the last thing I want to do is splash paint all over the place and buy myself an extra hour of work. But what the heck? That's weird. It does make me feel a little Beelzebubby. God, that's disturbing in a way. All right. Okay, that's coming out good. It's covering pretty well. Thank goodness it's so thick, actually. So that's helping for sure. Try not to dip my beard in the paint. We're in a dark corner right here. Kind of hard to see whether I'm covering or not, but I think I am. We'll be able to switch the guitar around in a bit and see. Ask our buddy here to see if we're doing. How's the coverage, bud? Huh? And what the heck made you decide to do this? I guess it's the bright light, huh? Well, that's the way I'm going to justify it. Bright light and a hot pink guitar. I guess it's kind of irresistible. I wonder if there's a nice radiation reflection from that hot pink or something. Whether the insect brain responds to colors, I have no idea. Wow, you're extra comfy. You're taking off and then landing closer. Are you like counting coup or something? Are you proving to your fly buddies that you're super brave? Found somebody who's got a stick with paint all over it in their hand. They'd be too afraid to swat at you. Not worth $1,000 guitar. Wow, jeez. He flew away and came back. He definitely likes it here for some reason. I'm guessing it is the light. Wonder why insects are so attracted to light. I'm sure there's a scientist who can tell me. So, I purposely kind of rolled this glitter just a bit around the edge, just so there'd be a little peek at the front. So I'm going to keep perpetuating that, especially now that, having hot pink dyed glitter ring. Yeah, it'll look messy if I leave any of it exposed, even if it is dyed a different, to match the top. The texture does not match. It is not a match. Alright. Slowly but surely. And yeah, you want to take your time with this sort of thing. It's very detailed work. Try to rush it, you end up doubling your time. So, yeah, if you try to rush it, you'll end up opposite of rushed. You'll have your tom elongated. So, kind of like the way this glitter paint sort of lays down. It's when it flows onto the surface, it's kind of, because it has so much solid in it, all that glitter in it, it sort of pools, but it pools like mercury, you know? It's like semi-liquid, semi-solid. And it's got structure, so it's not going to just, given time, it won't self-level like, say, epoxy or resin or something like that would. So I can build up texture because there's actual structure to the paint. God, I hope I don't. Oh yeah, I unscrewed but did not take the neck out. See how my hand's completely covered in glitter. Okay, we'll mess with this neck later. Put it over here. I'm not even going to show you that side. It is a mess. But I'm going to put it in a box with a bunch of wood, and I'm going to show you that wood. But maybe another time. But oh boy, it's going to turn into a guitar. And it's a guitar body and a guitar top. And I just had them sent from Canada. And I just really love what's coming out of Canada in terms of guitars and wood and everything, because you just have to realize, and you know, the freaking facts are that woods from colder climates, hardwoods from those cold climates are super dense. And guess what? Because the American logging industry, and you know, the American industry in general, has just been so insanely robust, and oftentimes not very sustainable in terms of making sure that whatever they're harvesting, say a hardwood or whatever, would be something that would be replaced so that there could be a future harvest of that without that resources being eventually depleted. And yeah, there are times in our history where things ended up going extinct even in this crazy world we live in. But as we mature as a society and as a race of humans, you know, the whole race, all of us, the big R one, species, I guess, more like it. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, we got to preserve the things that we can't just get all excited about swamp ash and then turn all the swamp ash we've got into guitars and end up with no swamp ash because, man, there's a lot of things other than guitars that are made out of swamp ash. And it's a darn good wood. So do what you need to do to make those harvests sustainable. And don't use ash if you don't need to. There's probably plenty of instances where another wood would have worked just as well, if not better. But anywho, this guitar is made out of swamp ash, just FYI. And swamp ash is actually, looks like, is on the at least protected list at this point, or could be soon, because Fender Guitar Company just announced that all their ash-bodied guitars, that they'll only be doing very limited edition guitars in the swamp ash, which is their Fender's kind of go-to wood for many of their classic instruments. Notably the 72 1970s thin line double humbucker Telecaster. Everybody sees that as a swamp ash guitar. That beautiful grain. And anyway, and I love the grain of the back of this guitar. Just that's why I worked that filler into the grain, so that when I dyed the pink, that silver would show through and accentuate, and especially once the lights hit this thing, that's going to glow in a very special way, very subtle. So carefully running a bead along the top here, matching and covering. Just trying to maintain this intersection between the faux binding and the exposed wood grain. Yep, working good, little by little. So anyway, I am not in any position to deplete wood resources at all. And yet I would like to have access to some beautiful woods, right? Sorts of things that you'd see on a guitar built by, Fender, or like the boutique companies, or the pseudo boutique companies like Paul Reed Smith. This does lots and lots of guitars with quilted and curly maple tops. Figured woods. So, guitars that rely on naturally occurring grain anomalies, a quilting, or flamed maples can come out of like just the crotch between two branches. If you've got a log with that splits into two branches, and one of those branches is 6 inches thick and the other one's 10 inches thick, and that whole crotch is a good 20 inches wide with all the intersecting tissues and everything. Cut into those grains basically colliding with one another, end up making these beautiful figures that have all sorts of really interesting, manifest themselves in very interesting ways visually. So, and I love the curlies and the quilteds, and they're awesome. And it makes sense for a manufacturer like Gibson or any of the big ones to want to be able to get a figured wood for like top quality custom builds, top of the line guitars. Or, if you're a boutique company, for all your guitars. But there are wood grain anomalies that are even more sort of obscure. One is a spalted, and I've started seeing this. I hadn't even known what that term was. Spalted wood, spalted maple, and spalted walnut are things that I've seen people making guitars out of. And ironically, what spalting is actually the beginnings of rot. And a spalted wood grain or spalted wood is basically a piece of wood that's being compromised by rot. But what happens basically is that the decay kind of travels up the grain, sort of like scouting. So before the rest of the wood, sort of starts to dissolve. So that spalting, I'm going to have glitter all over myself. I'm going to keep resting my damn hand. Keep resting my hand on stuff. I have to quit doing that. So actually, let me make sure I put myself in a position where I don't. That'll help. So spalted woods are awfully interesting. And like I said, yeah, it's kind of an interesting anomaly, It's like, wow, you cut into a piece of wood and you see these dark veins running up the veins of the wood. And they make shapes and figures, and it's darker than the wood. If you got like a maple or walnut, the spalted or rotted veins of wood are darker. And so yeah, they can make all sorts of just interesting, beautiful shapes, organic shapes, but also kind of accidental shapes. And But there's another one, wood anomaly. It's one that I particularly am interested in. And I've got one guitar top, and I've already shown you. It's another Pottycaster, same shape as this guitar. And I did an introduction of that one, and I put some oil on it, a little varnish mix, oil mix, to just seal that wood. By recommendation, if you're going to store a piece of wood that you're going to work later, it's a good idea to seal that wood, make sure that it doesn't dehydrate and even crack or something like that, which is, of course, the last thing you want your wood to be doing when you're hoping to use it. And so, yeah, and I had a burled top Telecaster. So somebody else made the body, shaped the body, put a top on it. It's I believe it's a maple body, the guitar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's maple if I remember right. And but the top, which is about a 1/4 inch thick slice of wood on top, is a burled ash. And that burled ash is basically the inside of a wood scar. So, say if your tree in your backyard had a limb fall off of it, or had a limb fall off, big old chunk of the tree is exposed for a while to the elements, and of course the tree in its best interest wants to seal that wound up just like a human does, and wants to create a scab over it. Trees aren't humans, and skin and bark ain't the same. So it takes a different turn for trees who are trying to scar up their wounds. But they do much the same in that they sort of grow some wood over the scab or the wound. And actually, if you look back in your mind and try to remember if you've ever seen a tree that has, maybe just a softball size, but oftentimes like a basketball size, just lump growing out of it. Sometimes it's smooth, like a piece of smooth bark, And sometimes it's just gnarly, very knobby, ratty looking. And basically what's going on in the inside is that the tree is just hyper developing wood to fill in that wound, but it does it in the same way it does normally. It's just doing it at an accelerated and compromised way, since it's a wound. So instead of the grain being nice, clean, circly rings, like you're going to see if you cut into the tree trunk, the undisturbed trunk. But if you cut into a burl, you get this crazy spaghetti snarl of grain, which is gorgeous. Oh, that's one of my favorite things. Actually, I realized I have 3 guitars that are now that are working with some sort of burl. I've got the Potty Blaster, the purple guitar I was talking about earlier with the I messed up with the by putting the clear coat on without sealing it in an earlier episode or another episode. This actually will probably be the first episode because this will be the first guitar I finish for Stacy Shea Williams. So anyway, so yeah, that burled wood is awesome, and just so crazy looking. Yeah, there's just no two that look similar. Whereas a quilted or flamed maple, quilted and flamed maples, certainly there's variances in them, but they all look reasonably the same, same sort of quilting texture or the same sort of, wavy looking texture, uniform waves. All right, we're going to let this dry. Maybe, should I take this opportunity? Oh, actually, it should be a different video. Yeah. All right, so this is a quick little trim video. I'm going to look back at this in a bit and see if I managed to cover everything. But this is looking great. I'm seeing a lot of sparkle again, whereas there had been some dullness that had descended upon this great guitar. I'm starting to spread glitter all over the back. Well, that's fine if there's a little sparkle here and there. But anyway, you're looking at Earl Pottymouth Arbuckle once again. This is Pottymouth Guitars. And as usual, I want to thank Make Every Media for producing these episodes. Seth Cleveland for editing help. Ross Victor for editing help, either now or in the future. We're all a big team. It's all good. Michael Furstenfeld for being producer and being just a good guide and a person who's working really hard to give us something that we can use to share this stuff with you, me and my friends. So tune in to Pottymouth Guitars next episode and take a look at some other episodes of stuff here on Make Every Media. Got Violin Cat House with Christabel Lynn. She's a good friend. Well, she's Earl Pottymouth Arbuckle's fiddle player. So, of course, I recommend her. And I'll be telling you about other programs in the future because right now I can't think of any of the names of them on the top of my head. I'm so sorry. I did not prepare a script. My fault. But I wanted to get this bench. I wanted to show you this bench. I was so excited. Anyway, thanks for coming in. Thanks for watching Pottymouth Guitars. And let's let this dry, and I'll get this glitter off my fingers so I don't keep perpetuating it like the virus that it is. The glitter 19. Bad joke. Sorry. Anyway, love y'all. Thanks for watching. See you again next time.
Well, you're raising the dead, or shooting for the stars. Well, you can't go wrong with a Pottymouth guitar.